Spoilers ahead. Watch out, and take care. The movie is set in Berlin, in the late summer of 1942. Friedrich Weimer works in the boiler room of a small store. After work, he rides his bicycle to the local gym for boxing training. He has an important fight against one of the members of NAPOLA, the National Political Academy. The future elite of German society study at such institutions. In the dressing room, where he is preparing for the fight, students of Napoleon enter. One of them bullies Friedrich and his friends, and the coach shows up. The guests leave, and the hero is led to the ring to represent the hall in the fight. Friedrich's opponent is that elite bully. They exchange blows to the delighted cries of the audience. The hero often goes on the defensive, closing with a block but successfully counterattacks with a punch. And when one such punch reaches the target, the opponent hangs on the ropes, stunned by the missed hit. The boxer suddenly freezes on the spot, unable to finish his opponent. The elite gymnasium student seizes the moment, gathering his strength, he knockouts Friedrich. His classmates rejoice while the local coach's face shows disappointment. After the fight, the teenager is being treated for his bruises when Gonrich Vogler, the other NAPOLA teacher, enters. He has seen Friedrich's performance, assessed his potential, and offers to join the Führer school. To do so, it is necessary to apply and pass the entrance exams. The next day, he goes to the specified address. He undergoes several medical tests for true Aryanism, measurements of the skull and a comparison of eye and hair color, and passes the standards. When he returns home, the boy tells his parents he's enrolled at Napoli. His father isn't happy about it. He demands that his son, instead of cooperating with the ruling party, become a simple honest worker. At night, when everyone is asleep, the teenager runs away from home, leaving a note, and breaks a truck heading toward Allenstein Castle. In the morning, his parents read a farewell letter, in which the son confessed that he forged his father's signature for a chance to make his way among the nation's elite. After hitching a ride to the castle, Friedrich walks to the gate. The inside is full of uniformed students and parents who have brought their children for the start of the new school year. The young man enters the courtyard with the joy of Harry Potter seeing Hogwarts for the first time. He is greeted by Vogler, who admits to forging his signature. Here, deception and lies are frowned upon, but the teacher is willing to keep quiet. Vogler takes Friedrich to the issuing of the official uniform, telling him on the way that pupils of his age are not often admitted to the academy, but he has put in a good word for him. The teacher passes the newcomer to one of the students to show him around the room and introduce him. Friedrich explains the rules, but the lecture is interrupted by a gathering for the principal's welcome speech. The newcomers aren't divided into faculties by the distributing helmet. Instead, the headmaster states that the students are equal, regardless of their background. When they graduate, they will become the elite of the nation, not just any worker. They are destined to play the role of the governors of Washington, Moscow, London, and other towns. Friedrich is imbued with the importance of the moment and belonging. He enthusiastically sings with the other students the national anthem. In the evening, the duty officer makes the newcomer do push-ups, and scatters the sloppily folded things. Vogler shows up and cancels the punishment, since Friedrich is his favorite. He has trouble sleeping at night and looks out his window to see a new student, who has been assigned to their room. In the morning, the newcomer helps him with making the bed. The duty officer wants to reprimand Friedrich for being slow, but notices a new student and changes his mind. The students are exercising when the teacher is informed that a teenager named Siegfried has wet his bed again. The teacher tells him to fetch the mattress, then makes him do on it. Until he does this, the rest of the group performs the exercises. At lunch, the director introduces Albrecht, who turns out to be the son of Gauleiter Stein. Their everyday routine, studying the Führer's ideology, literature, history, practical exercises in physical training and shooting goes on. One day the pastor comes for lunch. He only appears when it is necessary to tell the students the bad news about the death of relatives. Finally, Vogler calls Friedrich to boxing practice, something he was taken to Naples for in the first place. The teacher tells him that Allenstein was, for a long time, the champion among the national political academies. But in recent years, another school has taken the trophy. One photo shows Vogler losing with a dejected look. The next championship is planned for winter, and Friedrich needs to be coached by then. On his way out of the gym, the teenager sees Siegfried standing in the courtyard, holding a pissed mattress over his head. Friedrich discovers that Albrecht is working on the school newspaper. He likes to write. But his parents don't appreciate his talent, which saddens the boy. To support his comrade, the boxer takes it upon himself to read the essays and give his opinion. Soon there will be the first competition between the boxing academies. The fight goes all the way to the knockout. Friedrich fights in his favorite manner, a deft defense with occasional successful counterattacks. After several missed punches, he manages to switch to an attack and stun his opponent. He lies on the ropes, and Vogler shouts for the hero to finish. Freezing for a moment, Friedrich knocks his opponent out with a brutal punch. Such brutality surprises Albrecht, who does not share the cheers of the fans. After the fight, the headmaster thanks him, expressing the hope that he will continue to delight the academy with victories. But Albrecht wonders if Friedrich didn't feel sorry for the defeated opponent. The conversation somewhat overshadows the joy of victory. During another wake-up call, the duty officer notices that Siegfried has again wet himself, and asks for money to keep quiet about it. The class goes to the grenade-throwing class. The gym teacher explains the algorithm of the action, after which the students in the trench begin the practical exercises. The excited boys cope until one falls into a catatonic stupor from the explosions, and the teacher shouts and drops a grenade under his feet. The teacher leaps briskly out of the trench as the students stare at the grenade in confusion. The explosion is moments away when Siegfried covers it with his body, saving the others. Shards settle on the faces of his comrades. During Siegfried's funeral, Gauleiter Stein gives a speech that turns into an agitated speech with every word he utters. Finally, he nails a medal to the dead man's coffin. At the next gym class, the perpetrator of the tragedy is escorted past the classroom. His parents take him home. The gym teacher, who has left the students in danger, brags about his abs, suggesting that Friedrich the boxer try to punch him. But the boy doesn't want to do it. The teacher can't stand it and yells at him, and when he stops flexing his muscles, the hero suddenly punches him in the stomach. Albrecht invites Friedrich to his house for the weekend. It's his father's birthday. They go to the mansion, where the sportsman admires the decorations, to which the comrade replies that it was all here before they were put there. Albrecht tries to tell his mother how he is doing at school, but she does not listen to him, absorbed in organizing a gala dinner. In the evening, the Gauleiter arrives with his colleagues for the difficult Nazi business. They sit around the table, drinking and praising each other. Albrecht wants to recite a poem he wrote for his father, but he interrupts him. The conversation switches to Friedrich. The officers remember his recent victory. The guests go down to the cellar, where there is a makeshift ring. The Gauleiter orders the boys to put on a show fight. The father doesn't care that his son is physically inferior to the athlete. Albrecht attacks Friedrich, who goes on the defensive, not wanting to injure his friend. At a certain point, however, he doesn't hold back and punches back. One punch is enough to send Albrecht into a knockdown. The father, forgetting about his son, hugs Friedrich and personally gives him schnapps. At school, the headmaster informs the pupils that one entire class is going to the front as volunteers. Watching them leave, Albrecht admits to Friedrich that he is not offended by him. He is afraid of his future. One winter, in the middle of the night, the Gauleiter arrives at the academy and orders them to build the class. They are tasked with catching the runaway Russian prisoners of war, who have hidden in the local forest. The students are given combat weapons and then driven into the woods, having been warned that the fugitives are armed. Divided into groups, the students are led through the forest at night, frightened by every rustle. One of them notices movement on a hill and opens fire. The others follow suit, then climb up. On the hill lie unarmed prisoners, some younger than themselves. Albrecht tries to help a wounded man, who whispers in Russian, "Thank you, comrade." While he fiddles with the bandages, Friedrich examines the others, and bumps into a survivor. Muttering help, the captive dies. He watches as a snowflake descends on his glazed eye. The Gauleiter and his men overtake the squad. The officer cold-bloodedly shoots the wounded man, whom his son was trying to help, and reprimands Albrecht not to cross him in the future. Friedrich takes his friend, who becomes hysterical. He runs off into the woods, leaving his classmates behind. What has happened is imprinted on the young men's minds. They have not yet encountered real murders. Near the trucks, someone cheerfully asks Friedrich who they shot, which provokes a fight that Vogler breaks up. As they drive away, the teenagers see the soldiers herding the remaining prisoners into a ravine, where they shoot them. On their return to the academy, the teacher puts the brawlers in solitary confinement for 24 hours. In the morning, the class writes an essay on the winter landscape, a major part of the German heroic epic, after which the students read it aloud. Albrecht expresses the idea that perhaps he and his compatriots are the real evil that the heroes must fight. This is what the events of the previous night have led him to believe. The teacher tells him to be quiet, but the boy continues to read, even when he is thrown out of the classroom. A Gauleiter arrives at the academy because of the incident. He reprimands his son, in whom he is disappointed. Unlike his father, the boy does not share his ideology. Stein Sr. has worked his way up to power from the very bottom. and his son does not appreciate the privileges he has had since birth. The Gauleiter orders him to rewrite his essay with the correct message, after which Albrecht enrolls as a volunteer in the SS and goes to the Eastern Front, straight to Ukraine. Coming out of the prison cell, Friedrich learns about what has happened. He talks to Albrecht, trying to reason with him but unwilling to give up his point of view. The conversation spills over into a fight, ending with both of them crying on the floor in each other's arms. The next morning, the gym teacher takes the class to an icy lake. A new and severe test awaits the students. They have to dive into an ice hole, swim a few meters in the icy water, and come up out of another ice hole. The first pupil sets the route with a rope. Friedrich follows. When he dives out and gets dressed, Albrecht takes a dip in the ice hole. Boxer waits for his friend, but he does not surface for too long. Suspecting something bad, Friedrich shovels away the snow on the ice and sees Albrecht's pale face under the thick transparent edge. He's frozen halfway through, having no intention of continuing. The young man tries to break the ice with a pick, but it doesn't work, he just keeps watching. Having laid his hand on the ice on the other side for goodbye, Albrecht sinks gently into the cold waters. Gauleiter Stein, upon learning of his son's death, mutters, "Too weak." Friedrich wants to print an obituary in the wall newspaper, but the director forbids it. There is no place in the academy for honoring such cowards. He also says that Albrecht's parents think that Friedrich has had a bad influence on their son, and the headmaster stands up for the athlete, defending the honor of the school. The day of the final fight for the trophy arrives. Vogler gives Friedrich a morale-boosting message: he should not be nervous when his destiny and his future are being decided. Embittered and concentrated, Friedrich enters the ring with a familiar boxer against him. The fight begins. To the crowd's deafening roar, the opponents exchange blows, most of them toward Friedrich's block. However, some of them also fly into the bad head. At one point, Allenstein's pupil makes a successful attack, and his opponent ends up on the floor. The referee counts down the seconds until the loss, and Friedrich is shouted to finish. The boxer looks into the hall, where he sees not only the teenagers but also the officers and even the Gauleiter himself, satisfied with the fight's outcome. Looking at them, the hero hesitates, and puts his hands down. A rising opponent punches him in the face, but he doesn't even think of defending himself. After a couple of misses, Friedrich goes down, upsetting an entire crowd of Nazis. The next day, the gym teacher brings him to the principal. They tell him to strip and escort him to a room with his personal belongings. Friedrich changes into the clothes in which he arrives at the academy. He is led to the gate under the disappointed looks of his former classmates and Vogler, who has not even said goodbye to him. Once outside the gate, Friedrich takes one last look at the castle, turning around and disappearing into a white blanket of falling snow. A historical note states, until 1945, there were in the German Reich around 40 national political educational institutes with more than 15,000 students. When the war was finally acknowledged as being lost, they were sent out into the final struggle. Half of them died. The end. Thank you for watching. Subscribe if you'd like to see more videos like this. Turn on the notifications, and leave a like to help the channel out.